There's a saying, be careful what you wish for. Well, this time last year, I was wishing that we could find something other than Brexit to talk about. Well, we found something else to talk about. We found COVID-19, this terrible pandemic that has been causing so much death and misery all over the world. And it's at times like this that people say, well, why does God let bad things happen? And there is no simple answer to that. We don't know. Maybe God's pressing the pause button in our lives to make us sit up and think what we're doing, both with our lives and with the world. Do we need to take that flight halfway across the world for a business meeting? Can we video conference? Do we need to drive to work, or can we work from home? Do we need to use as much of the world's resources as we're doing? Do we need to get closer to God? Do we need to pray more? Christians aren't any more exempt from all the death and misery and sickness than anybody else. But Christians have faith. And I'm not just talking about that fuzzy head in the sand, it'll be all right tomorrow kind of faith. I'm talking about the sort of faith that St. Paul had. There was a man who really knew all about misery and sickness. And he wrote these words to the people at Philippi for when things got hard for them. He wrote, "Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the centre of your life." And there's another saying, every cloud has a silver lining. Well, thankfully, we've seen so many good examples of that recently. We've seen the NHS and the care workers going the extra mile to be kind to people who are sick and need looking after. And who would have thought that an old man walking up and down his garden could have touched the hearts of so many people that they gave so generously that there was over £30 million raised for his charity. And there are plenty of other people giving energy and originality into other ways of fundraising. And it's heartening to see these things because these are examples of how God is still working in our world. And there's another saying, there's always somebody worse off than yourself. And unfortunately, in some ways, they have dropped out of our conscious news coverage at the moment. But we know that there are people all over the world who are still dying because they don't have access to medicines that maybe only cost us pennies. There are people in slavery, in poverty. There are people fleeing as refugees from war and famine. And when we get back to some semblance of normality in our lives, will we still remember those people? Will we still put as much energy into fundraising and so much generosity into giving for them? Or will we just settle back into our own little comfort bubble? And then there's the last of my little sayings. We don't know what the future holds. Only God knows that. But once again, good old St. Paul has words that are relevant to us Christians, both for whatever number of tomorrows we've got left in this life and for all the tomorrows of eternity. And this is what he says on that. So we're not giving up. How could we? Even though on the outside it often looks like things are falling apart on us. On the inside, where God is making new life, not a day goes by without his unfolding grace. These hard times are small potatoes compared to the coming good times, the lavish celebration prepared for us. There's far more here than meets the eye. The things we see now are here today, gone tomorrow. But the things we can't see now will last forever. Isn't that wonderful? And isn't it good news?